Sitting here today with one of my favourite clients that we've ever worked with. So good to see you, bro.
Good to see you, man.
LT, he's been investing with us for almost 7 years, we just worked out, and we're just reminiscing off camera about catching up at my mum's house at Cronulla, having a bit of a chat about him wanting to buy his first property, and now, years down the line, 3 properties, on the way to where you want to be longer term, and most exciting, about to bail overseas for a year, man, to sort of chase that lifestyle that you've been after as well. So in today's video, we're going to talk about LT's journey. Hopefully you can get some inspiration. I know I definitely will, and learn a few things along the way as well. Awesome, bro. So the first question I'm going to hit you with today is, where are you sort of right now in terms of your life and what's been happening? But more importantly, like, tell us about this trip for next year, man. What's the plan?
So I fly out on Boxing Day.
Okay.
I'm going to go overseas 6 weeks in Thailand, and then straight into Mexico and work my way down through Central into South America.
Wow. So I know you do MMA and stuff like that. Is Thailand just full pleasure, or are you going to like a bit of a camp? Like, I know that you've been over there and done that stuff before as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with the first week will just be relaxing, kicking back a bit, and then
give yourself a week after 7 years.
Yeah, that's it. So then after that, I'm going to have 5 weeks of training.
Sick.
And then South America and Central America will be a bit, relax, kick back, read a book, do a bit of surfing, a bit of partying too. So
yeah, but yeah, it's going to be a good time. Sweet, man. And for those of you who don't know anything about it, because I sort of didn't before you told me last time, like, what are these like hectic training camps that you go to over there? Because I see like the before and after photos and they're pretty insane.
Oh yeah, so I guess there's all different types of camps over there. The ones that I go over and do, I'm not a fighter or anything like that. I just train for fun.
Yeah.
So you go over there, you can do 2-hour training blocks. You either do it in the morning or the afternoon, and then you've got the rest of the day to ride around on the scooter, drink some coconuts. So yeah, it's good. You can do the hard training in the morning for 2 hours and then spend the rest of the day relaxing.
Love that. And so that's like a bit of stand-up, bit of grappling that you're into these days, or what's this camp that you're going there for?
Yeah, so I'm going to go to this one. It's an actual MMA gym on Koh Samui.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's a bit of grappling, bit of stand-up.
On an island.
Yeah, on an island. Yeah, so you get a bit of both.
So, obviously this year off has been something that you've been looking forward to for a while now, but what have you been doing up to this point? Like, what's sort of the last 7 years look like for you in terms of work, in terms of career, in terms of investing? Like, what got you to this point where now you can go have that flexibility and freedom that you've been after?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess it all started as a first-year apprentice, doing electrical apprenticeship at 17. I had to actually get my mum to come in and sign the paperwork. So
you weren't old enough to sign.
I wasn't old enough, yeah. So from there, I was a first-year apprentice and seeing that the tradesmen were earning more money, so obviously wanted to get through my apprenticeship as quick as possible, get them more money from being a tradesman. And then from there, I seen that the next logical step was to become a project engineer. Okay. So I went during night time while I was an apprentice and studied my engineering, became an engineer. And then from there, I went, okay, cool, this is it. I'm happy here, I'm comfortable. And then I had a really great manager at the time, and his name was Darko, and he said to me, well, you've gotten here now, what's next? And that was a massive turning point in my life, having someone trying to, spark a fire in me, saying there's more for you, you can do more.
Wow.
So from there on, made it into an SPE role, senior project engineer role, studied at uni doing construction project management. Okay. And then from there, I kind of looked at it and went, okay, well, I can work my way up, and there's not, in the field that I wanted to be, still in project delivery and construction, there wasn't much further I could go unless I went into straight management in an office Monday to Friday.
Okay.
So I looked at it and went, okay, I need to have another source of income. I looked at Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was sort of the thing that kicked it all off for me.
How old were you roughly then?
Oh, I want to say maybe 23.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but I'll say about 23.
It was about the same for me, and I'm like, oh shit, this is the way.
Yeah, so I looked at it and I thought, well, I can work as hard as possible, but when I have to keep working. And then I looked at alternate revenue streams and to get money working for me. And that's sort of one of our mutual friends, Josh, he put me into contact with you. Yeah. That's where we first met. So I missed out on securing a property. And
my cat's just about to jump up here.
Yeah, I missed out on securing a property, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me in hindsight.
Yeah.
Came to you, and then the rest is history. That's where it all started.
Because how old are you now, man?
I'm 30.
fucking hell, you've done so much since then. Like, I just think about like so many things that you just glossed over, like a trade, then studying like the project side of it at night, and then working full time, and then going to uni at night as well. Like, it's been a lot when you actually think about it.
Yeah, when you stop and think, but now I'm reflecting, it has been a lot, yeah.
You know, you've got such a huge work ethic, bro, since the moment I met you until now. I had a huge work ethic as well. And then I think I just derailed myself, man, from working too hard for too long and being so on all the time that it was affecting my sleep. I started to get anxiety, and it wasn't a 1 year trip, but it was like a week trip to Stradbroke Island. And I got over there, and I was actually Moreton Island, in Queensland. And I got over there and I was like, I just laid down and went to sleep at like 11 in the morning and woke up at like 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, I hadn't slept in like 5 years like that. I just hadn't rested. I hadn't let the cortisol stop. And I remember waking up at like about 7 hours into it, just absolutely bawling my eyes out, going, what the hell's wrong? What's going on? Like, I had this dream that I walked through my old house at Engadine that you'd been to, and I'd never like said goodbye to that family home. I'd never like processed my mum and dad busting up. I'd never reflected on a single thing that I'd done. I'd just been hustling my ass off for like 7 to 10 years. And it was just this, oh shit, I don't know what to do from here, but I feel like leaning into more success and more work and more pressure isn't what I needed. Like, you've worked so hard all the way through the last 7 years, bro, and I'm just so stoked for you that you're taking this time just for you to like read books and chill on the beach and train every day and meet new people that you know, whatever's going to change your life. And it's just, so many people at 30 just don't do that, man, especially so set up in their careers and financially like you've become.
Yeah, that's a great point. So like you just said, being on for so long, that's kind of the place I'm at right now. So working so hard, studying, being stuck in that mindset, I guess, of more,
Yep.
and just achieving more and wanting more and continuing to try and do that. But yeah, I guess I couldn't put a pinpoint the exact day or when or what, but I've started to reflect a lot more and look at the areas of my life that I guess you could say neglected,
Yep.
and I want to work more on those. So that's sort of the reason for taking the break, you know, getting in my career and investing journey to a place where, you know, it's not the end, it's a pause.
Yeah.
So I've got to a position where I can have, you know, a year off, thankfully, and go overseas and work on myself and, you know, work on not so much as myself, but life, and see exactly what I want to get out of it.
I love that, man. I feel like if you do something as quickly as we both did in our like early 20s to, like, for me, mid 30s now, for you, like almost 30s, like, it's just, there is a trade, right? And that trade is, for me, it was my mental health, and then it was my relationships with mates, because I was like, my mates are always going to be there. I was sort of like, I need to do this right now. I'm going to do that a little bit later on, and my family as well. And it was only really like after that trip, I sort of went, shit, like there's so much more to this than me. And it was one of my friends sitting down with me. I think you met Adzi.
Yeah.
Used to work with us. Absolute legend of a dude. Bought you your place for such a steal, the second one. But he was like, man, it's not that what you're doing isn't interesting. It's just no one else is doing it. So it's boring as fuck to them. And he's like, and that's when I started training again and going back to boxing and like looking after myself better and hanging out with mates and surfing and just being that version of myself I was before the crazy like ascent to like achieve everything in 5 years or whatever we both tried to do.
Yeah.
So my next question, bro, is a little bit different. Like, and I want to come back to like some of those parts you neglected in a sec. It's sort of my next question, but where do you want to be longer term now? Like, what's your vision for your life based on how you're seeing things today from where you're looking at them from? Loaded hard question.
That's a good question, Danny. That's a good question. For me, I guess if I'm looking at it on a goal board or a picture, an image of what I've wanted last few years is on the river system at the back of Broad Beach Waters, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Nice house with a little jetty. That's it. That's what I want. But in regards, that's the materialistic thing, right? But I guess mentally, spiritually for myself, I want to be happy. That's the main thing I want to be. So I want to be happy. I want to have more time, you know, family, friends, loved ones. You know, that's what I want more from life. So I need to, realign the way I'm living, realign the things I'm doing, cut back on work, cut back on the hustle.
Yeah.
And just sort of balance life out. So where I want to be in the future is, I want to have the nice things. I have a nice car, I want to have a nice house. But more important to me now, which is something tying back into the question you just asked, what I neglected was, I guess, mental health, relationships. So I want to build those up. Yeah.
Sure. Can I ask you a question, man? Like, I talk about it with my psychologist regularly. He calls them towards decisions, which is decisions towards that version. And my only version of my future is happy.
Yeah.
Because success is nicer than like the $200 a week I lived off at uni in a share house with 7 boys with holes in the floor that we'd sweep all the shit into, like under the house. Like, I've done both versions, and like having a little bit more than you need so that you can help other people and help your family is awesome. But what are the things day to day that are starting to make you happy, knowing that success is going to be something that you're orientated towards and you'll continue to work towards financially, materially in your life? But now that you're defining success as family, mental health, friends, travel, training, learning new skills in fighting, like, what are decisions that you make that do lead to happiness in your day-to-day life, not looking forward to a trip in another few months' time and waiting for that, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I used to live very in the black and white. So it was either 100% or 0%.
Yeah.
And I would only do things that would give me a reward, which was investing, working, training. So now I'm taking a lot more time out of life just to do things that don't give me a reward. So go for a walk, go walk by the beach, go sit in a park, go to a museum, things like that. So for me, I'm prioritizing the small moments that aren't the significant moments, that don't give you a big dopamine rush.
Yes.
The big moments. I'm prioritizing trying to get more out of the small moments in life.
Man, so, I love that.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at the moment.
And that is the secret to happiness, like moment to moment presence, which is so hard to do because you and I are both very analytical. And that's why I think I trained my ass off in my 20s, because it was very easy to measure progress. And then I got into investing because it's like $1, one property, $10 a week increase in rents, and it was very easy to measure. And then business and career, it's all very measurable. But it's like, how do you measure like how many times you smiled that day, or how good a father you were, or what impact you had on that friend when they just needed you to be a part of their life, but for so long I didn't show up? And it's like, it's so sick to hear you make that so young, man. But all of you guys, like Simon, Josh and yourself, like, because you've achieved so much so quickly, and realised that, like, we were laughing off camera, no one high-fived you when you got to that point that you thought someone would. And then it's like, oh, shit, I could just keep going and you could end up being worth X amount in the future with X amount of properties. But, like, slowing down to speed up also feels good, hey? Oh,
100%. Like you just mentioned then, when you hit that goal that you think that was going to change your life, you hit it. We just mentioned that off camera, and, I've hit a milestone that I thought I would never hit. And then, no one was at the party. I didn't feel any different.
Can't even tell anyone.
Yeah, that's it. I just keep it to myself. But that's the thing. Like, it's all about the journey, not the destination. I've learnt that. So I was super hyper-focused on the destination and not worrying about the journey on the way. So now I'm trying to change my mindset to focus more on the journey. And the destination, I've still got goals and I still have, Broadbeach Waters house, that's what I want. But, it's more about the journey. And, if you enjoy the journey, you don't reach a destination, you still can have a good time.
I love that, man. So let's talk about that, because there's two parts of where do you want to be longer term. There's the fluffy vision, happiness, but you and I are realists, like, you know what I mean, as well. And there's definitely the financial side. So for me, success looks like owning, similar to you, like a nice home outright that I raise my family in. And it also means a certain amount of passive income or choices in the future. Like, where's the marking stick in the future for you?
So for me, I want the house. I want the nice house on the water with the jetty. That's the goal. That's what I want.
I want that for you too.
Yeah.
Especially down there so we can come visit.
Yeah, that's it. That'd be fun. We can do this more often.
Yeah.
But so that's the goal. But then also have the passive income stream. So, convert two of the properties I have now into dual. So whether that be a duplex or a dual or a granny flat, depending on zoning.
Yeah.
That would be the ultimate goal. Have those 4 income producing streams.
Yeah.
Come in, have the house I own outright, and then also I want to look into different business ventures. So that's more passive, not passive, but that's more cash flow.
Yeah.
Look into more cash flow positive investments.
Is there like a passion or a thing that you found there, or are you just the same as me? It's like I had the intention to start this business. years before I started it, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And I was looking for it and it also found me. Or do you have something that you think would be cool?
No, so that's the thing. So I've got the idea. I kind of know what I need to do, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So that hopefully, in the year off, I'll brainstorm, see what comes to me, see what opportunities arise.
End up owning a little bar in Mexico on the beach in Sunset.
Sell all the houses and never come back.
Awesome, man. So I'm going to talk about one of the things that most of us don't really normally share on camera, because it's always about what's working, the hustle, that sort of thing. But like, my question is, what's been the hardest parts of this journey so far, from like starting that trade to like this point now going, I'm just going to bail overseas and that's okay for me to do?
Yeah, I guess I can start with the investment side of it. The hardest part for me was actually pulling the trigger and going for it. So I think we touched on this earlier. I was going to buy a primary place of residence to live in, renovate, and then use that as a wealth creation strategy. Well, I didn't really have a strategy at that time. Just buy it and see what happens. Right? So the hardest part was for me shifting my mindset to trust. I hadn't met you before. I'd only knew you as Simon's brother, and I didn't really know you that well either. Yeah. So for me, the hardest part was trusting somebody I didn't know and putting all my faith in them. So I think I touched on that earlier as well. So the thing that put, the faith in me to then, as we've progressed our relationship, both professionally and personally, was at the start when we got that first property. I don't know if you remember, we got one. So you applied for it, we got approved, and then you said, oh, look, going to do a second inspection. Went and looked at it, and you said, no, this isn't for you. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. You were like, I've put so much energy into this already.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed out. I went, so I thought we had one, it is what it is. But then in hindsight, looking back at that, you could have easily just went, you know what, got the property, take the commission, see you later. Yeah. But the fact that, you went, okay, well, this isn't the right fit, let's go again. That put a lot of faith in me. So the hardest part was trusting you at the start, but then as soon as you did that, the trust was there. Yeah. So that's what I learned, for me, that was the hardest part, I guess, at the start of the journey. And then throughout the journey, it's, all the mishaps that happen with the property. I've got a neighbour that I've had a lot of issues with one property over the last 5 years. Yeah. It's been a constant battle.
The one closer to the city?
Yeah. So that one, it's been a bit of a battle. It's ongoing. Okay. Damage to property, intimidating neighbours. So there's not much you can really do. So that's been a battle, and I guess that's part of it. It's an extreme case that you probably don't get very often. Yeah. But that is, the negative side to this. It's not all great. Yeah. Okay, so they're two of probably the main things there. But the third one, I guess, would be the first two properties are part of a strategy to improve. So they're not the best quality. I've had to do renovations to one of them, pretty major. Not, I wouldn't say too major, but new bathroom, new paint, new flooring.
It's pretty major when you're in Sydney and you're trying to do it up here with people you don't trust or know either.
Yeah, that's it. So I guess that would be a hard part, the short-term cash flow for the long-term capital gain to improve them later down the track. And then, the third one was more of a, I guess you call it blue chip, not needing as much maintenance or anything like that. It's quite...
It's nice when you get one of them and you're like, this is how I want it to be. This is how it can be.
Yeah, well, I can be like this.
Yeah. And that brings the idea of knocking down and rebuilding forward in the future at some point, because you're like, what if I didn't hear from my property managers for 10 years outside of like maintenance once every now and then?
Yeah, what if they were all active?
Yeah. It's so funny, man, because I started off with properties that looked like exactly the same as yours, and I've ended up knocking down and rebuilding. Like almost all of my properties are fully renovated or new now. And the ones that I have that aren't, I'm like, there'll be some point in the next 30 years that's the plan. Because I'm like, I didn't realise that this business could be so easy with that strategy. But it's bloody expensive to do that. And there's times without cash flow too.
Yeah, so I guess that's where I'm at now. I'm just waiting to get in a better cash flow position, and then also, equity build up so you can then do the knockdown rebuild.
So I've got one more question for you, bro. And I'm so grateful for this. But before we do that, can I just ask, like, you've sacrificed a lot financially that other people in their 20s haven't. Like, I know how hard it is to bust your ass and save deposits, and you've been doing that for 7 years straight now, pretty much. Like, how have you dealt with the sacrificing, like, what you want short term for what you want most in the future? Like, how have you managed that? Because there's so many other people, that all of our mates pretty much, that haven't been able to do the same thing. Like, what's enabled you to do that?
I guess coming back to what we discussed about before, just wanting more out of life and realising that sometimes you got to make the short-term sacrifices for long-term gain.
For sure.
So I guess that motivated me. Don't get me wrong, it's not been a linear process. It's been ups and downs. I fall off track all the time. I make decisions I probably shouldn't. Go on holidays, too many holidays, but
Nah, man, you got to do that stuff.
that's it, yeah.
I feel like for every single property I've ever bought, I've gone on a holiday, and I just feel like I'm not one of those people. I'm so similar to you, where I've got other clients that are like fire community, save every single dollar, invest every single dollar forever. Like, because I don't think if you do that for 10 years, you can just overnight change your mindset and be free and happy. But I just feel like that lifestyle balance all the way through, man, and falling off is fun. Like, you want to like celebrate what you've done. And I know a few times you've jumped into nicer apartments on the beaches and stuff like that and sprayed a bit of cash for a year, and then it's like, Benny, it's time to get back on track, man. What's our plan for a year from now?
Yeah.
I feel like I've done the same thing heaps, and I love that I have, because it's meant that like my 20s and 30s have been heaps of fun as well.
Yeah, that's it.
So my last question, bro, is what would you say to your 20-year-old self knowing what you now know? Because you've got so much experience that you don't reflect on. What would you say to him now?
I guess the first thing I'd say is, start as early as possible and take the opportunities when they come. Don't think too much about them and sit on the fence, because through our journey together, the last one especially, you called me a week after or even a couple of days after we sort of sorted out the paperwork at the start and said we found one. So I guess jump straight in and just trust the process, do your research. Mm-hmm. But I guess, for me, I would say start as early as possible with doing your research.
Yeah.
Second thing, I guess, I would say trust the process.
Hard to do, for someone that's analytical. I find that's my hardest thing.
Yeah, trust the process, and also, wanting everything straight away is it's hard to trust the process because you want it to happen overnight. And then I guess the third thing would be the opposite to that. The counter argument would be you've got time. Like, you don't need to stress and rush all the time. Like, you just trust the process and work through.
How have you, taken that high performing pressure off yourself and begun to trust the process more? Like, is that just the experience of 7 years ago buying this, looking at the valuation today and going, it did work out because we followed the data into that suburb and we did the same thing a second and a third time? Or has it more been you can see the results of it working out, or has something changed in you as you've gotten further along your journey?
I think it's a bit of both. I think I've, seen the results between now and then, and looking at the future forecasts and educating myself a bit more around property cycles has helped. But then also as well, just not being so hard on myself, having these goals that I think I have to achieve at a certain time at a certain date.
Yeah.
So just, I guess, releasing a bit of the pressure off myself has helped a lot there.
It's funny how like letting go of some of that pressure sometimes actually brings the achievement forward, because it's like you're doing it for that year and a half you're saving for the next one or whatever. It's just like, or 2 years, even 3 years sometimes, it's like you can get so specific on that versus just going, hey, like I set the intent that like in this year I'm going to buy, and sometimes it even comes forward. Like, especially I want people to know that it's so hard at the start, but as you get further along, right, like now there's equity, which is as good to the bank as your savings, and it makes decisions much easier in the future for you. But what I also like, man, is you've got enough now to never, ever have to do something again. And so you've got this choice point that I'm at, that Simon's at, that Davo's at, which is like, do I want to keep chasing this? Or am I like ready to go overseas for a year, or I'm going over to Bali tomorrow and in a caravan for 6 months next year? Like, are you ready to start making those choices towards like who you see yourself and like that like all of this crazy shit version of yourself that like just loved life and like was excited about everything before like the head was like, you've got to achieve all of these things?
Yeah, that's it. I totally agree. You get to a point where, like you said, it's not a crossroads, but you get to a point and say, well, do I keep hustling? Yeah, I'll probably get to the goal earlier, but it's the journey, not the destination. So you just ignore all the good things in life up until that point. And yeah, so I've just sort of, like you just said then, just try to bring it back and enjoy life a bit more. Go on that 6-month caravan trip, go to Bali, go overseas for 12 months.
100%, man. I'm so grateful, dude. Like, your journey's been so inspiring. Like, it's so funny. Like, I heard this thing from Naval. He's like a tech investor in Silicon Valley that's also like a philosopher. kind of like a Tim Ferriss, like 4-hour work week guy type vibe. But he said this thing like, you give a great person a medium time horizon and they're going to end up great, like in terms of the results in their life, financially, success-wise, education-wise, career-wise. And just meeting you at 23, man, and you had your shit together a lot more than I did at 23. But like, just watching it unfold has been the most epic thing to see, man. And I'm so grateful for what we've done and the timing and how you've used data. Like, I want people to understand this. Like, you just didn't blindly trust us. We looked at the first suburb and I said to you at that time, this suburb has only grown by 3% per year for the 10 years leading up to this point. It is hugely undervalued. It's 9Ks from Brisbane. You bought it for 400K. And it's like, I just get so excited about that. And then you came back around like a bunch of years later and you're like, I'm ready. And I'm like, you're like, well, what about that area? Because it's what you knew. And like, well, no, data is saying this area on the beach now. And we followed that. And then you've just done the same thing for a third time. And it's like, we're looking for low vacancy rates. We're looking for high demand. We're looking for the next domino to fall. And we're looking for houses with big blocks, you know, close to the city, close to the beach, and the stuff that had worked in Sydney that you'd seen for all of our families. So I just want to say, like, thank you for this journey. It's been hell fun. And I don't know if we'll get another bite at the cherry in the future or not, like, but it's exciting, man. And I can't wait to help you, like, design those dual locks or those duplexes and introduce you to builders and just go through that fun in the future whenever that time comes in 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future, mate. And I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate all your help, you know, from the start to finish and the education you give. You know, it's excellent. It helps along the way from someone having no idea what they're doing. I feel like I know a lot more than when I started. Still lots to learn, but yeah, it's
always
it's
something to learn, bro. Nah, thanks so much, man. It's awesome to have you on camera.
Cheers.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
Getting cool, bro. Yeah.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's very nice there. Oh.